By now, the term Y2K has become a household phrase, and residents' reactions to the millennium bug are as varied as the individuals themselves. Scores of books and thousands of articles and websites have been dedicated to the subject, some predicting widespread social chaos, others claiming Y2K to be nothing more than a bump in the road along the information superhighway. It is difficult to know how disruptive the Y2K problem will be to our everyday lives. Although federal, state, and local governments, along with financial institutions, retail businesses, health agencies, and other groups, have been working to test and resolve Y2K concerns, the impacts of the millennium bug are still unpredictable. For the next 45 minutes, we will explore the potential effects of Y2K here in Cupertino. Is your local government prepared to handle the potential disruptions presented by Y2K? How about your local utilities? Will there be ample supplies of food and water for you and your family? Will it be business as usual at your local bank, or should we expect some problems, such as restrictions on cash withdrawals? And how about emergency services and law enforcement? What are they doing to prepare? In this program, we will do our best to answer these questions. And while we want to emphasize the potential seriousness of Y2K, we will also seek to dispel the many rumors and unfounded fears surrounding the millennium bug. We believe Y2K is not cause for alarm. Rather, working together with your neighbors and your local government is the best approach, the common sense approach to meeting the Y2K challenge. As most people know, Y2K refers to the year 2000 computer glitch, which is happening because many older computers and software programs use only the last 2 digits of the year to record dates. When the year 2000 or 00 finally arrives, programs that have been entered with the 2-digit code may be viewed as the year 1900. This confusion in dates could create computing errors or cause systems to crash. Also, many electronic devices have embedded computer chips which may fail as a result of the 2-digit coding problem. At first glance, it may seem that the Y2K problem should be a quick fix. After all, the problem is a remarkably simple one that should offer a simple solution. However, components with date-sensitive programming aren't that easy to find. Today, technological systems are so complex and interdependent that even given the best efforts of programmers, billions of chips and billions of lines of code will remain uncorrected at the end of the year. What does this mean? This means that at the very least, we can anticipate some failures and some subsequent disruptions. What government leaders are hoping for is that these failures will not occur in what's referred to as mission-critical systems, key systems that act as the foundation for other systems upon which a business, utility, or government agency operates. A failure in a mission-critical system, such as the local power grid, could cause a ripple effect in other services that we consider essential parts of our everyday lives. Telephone, banking, mail delivery, water service, not to mention gas and electricity. Although it's extremely unlikely we will experience a major system-wide failure, it is likely that there will be isolated problems, perhaps regional in nature, that could affect the community for a few hours, a few days, perhaps even a few weeks.
Did everybody receive the letter that came from PG&E? Because that's a critical piece that really establishes that they have gone through and pretty well are saying very close to being Y2K compliant.
At Cupertino City Hall, city staff have been taking measures to ensure that Cupertino residents are informed about possible Y2K problems and know how the community can work together to meet these challenges. Updated information is readily available through the Cupertino Scene, the city's website, and through brochures. In addition, the city has coordinated with many outside agencies such as law enforcement, fire, and public utilities in order to remain up to date on Y2K remediation and contingency efforts in these areas. Recent tabletop exercises such as this one can help city staff anticipate problems and measure interagency response to potential Y2K incidents.
And the scenario is a Y2K possibility. We all know it's coming. It's one of those emergencies that we know the exact time, and we know the exact date, and where we're going to be, maybe in this room or in some other location as we prepare for that emergency. But before we go into the scenario...
in our case, we are prepared to begin operation of an emergency operations center if we need to during an emergency. All our key staff have pre-assigned responsibilities. All the emergency operators, fire, police, have pre-assigned responsibilities, and people are supposed to report certain locations. So it's pretty much pre-planned, and we've tested it a few times and done exercises in it, and it works real well. We've already had conversations with the fire department and with the sheriff's department, and of course they're on the job 24 hours a day anyway. And in the event that we need to have more people brought back, our service center employees, we're ready to do that.
While key personnel will remain on call the evening of December 31st, just in case, the city is also taking steps to assure the public that its services will continue to run smoothly and efficiently well into the year 2000. Not surprisingly, the first priority on the city's Y2K remediation list is its computers.
What we've been doing to mitigate some of the potential problems that we foresee is Y2K is update a lot of our hardware and software. We're replacing a lot of our old information systems with newer technology, up-to-date type systems as far as our financial human resources package, our parks and recreation software, as well as our desktop, workstations. And we have the latest that's going to make sure that we're Y2K compliant.
But what if all this technology were to suddenly stop working? Virtually every city department relies on computers for its daily operation, from the issuance of building and business permits to the collection of revenues to the maintenance of public safety. Computers act as the central method for managing information within a city. Even a partial failure or glitch in this network could at best create a major inconvenience.
Yes, right now I do agree that the embedded chip problem is going to be a real big issue because it's hard to tell exactly where all the embedded chips are. If there was a potential crash or some sort of inconvenience, we would be able to operate the majority of our services manually. You'd still be able to register for recreation facilities manually. You would still be able to come pay for your business license manually. We could manually issue building permits. So there would be a contingency plan. However, we don't really feel that there's going to be any major, problems or major issues.
Another concern of the city's is Cupertino's traffic control system. Every traffic signal at every intersection in the city is controlled by a series of computer interconnects which communicate back to this room at the lower level of City Hall. Even if the power stays on, this system is at risk if any of its components prove to be Y2K vulnerable.
The traffic signals system, the interconnect system, we are actually implementing a new program and a new hardware, which will then be Y2K compliant, so we don't think there's any problem there. If something does happen, the traffic signal interconnect is only a method of integrating or interconnecting different intersections. If need be, that could be shut off, and the signals then would operate on demand actuated, and they would not then be interconnected, which would not be that much of a detriment other than during the peak hours.
Along with the traffic interconnect, the city has reviewed its other critical systems and facilities, and all have been determined to be Y2K ready. But if the city is confident it's prepared, what about other areas of our community? One of the biggest concerns related to Y2K is the lack of preparedness by small businesses. A recent report concluded that more than 1 million, or roughly 20% of the nation's small businesses, plan to take no action to address potential Y2K problems. Unprepared businesses not only put themselves at risk, but may also adversely affect their business partners, their suppliers, as well as customers who depend on them for goods and services.
Small business has been so focused on just running their business, they've not taken the time to really look at it. So I think the implication is going to be that some small businesses are going to falter. Those that don't prepare are not going to be able to give the service they're going to lose their receivables, they're going to lose some of their records, and that is where they're going to have the problem.
I think that the small businesses do not have the same problem that the larger businesses have. First of all, they don't have old software. Most of the small businesses that have PCs have constantly upgraded because the hardware has gotten faster and the software has gotten newer. So the off-the-shelf software and the hardware is pretty Y2K compliant at this point in time.
Fortunately, if you are a small business owner in Cupertino, there are steps you can take even now to address your Y2K issues. First, determine if your business has a Y2K problem. Second, take action immediately. Fixing the problem may not be complicated, but it could be time-consuming and labor-intensive. Third, contact your vendors and have them assure you in writing that they will be Y2K ready on January 1st. And finally, stay informed and organize yourself accordingly.
One of the things is to be prudent. At the end of the year, make sure that you save your bank statements. Make sure that you back up disks of any important information. Make sure that you have all your receivables and all of your payables so that if some glitch were to take place, you could then recreate it and then continue. That's what's important.
Yet even if most businesses are prepared here in Cupertino, many of our key trading partners are not. A leading Y2K consulting company, the Gartner Group, recently concluded that 15% of U.S. companies can expect at least one mission-critical failure, resulting in shutdown or considerable revenue or production loss. In Japan, Korea, Singapore, and Thailand, the expected failure is 33%, and in China and Indonesia, the rate increases to 66%. As of December 1998, fully one-third of the countries in the developing world had not even drafted a Y2K action plan, while many of the world's leading oil exporting countries lagged far behind in their Y2K remediation work. Given such sobering news from overseas, many Y2K experts fear the possibility of a worldwide recession lasting well into 2000, accompanied by a significant correction in global stock markets. This, along with reports that the legal repercussions of Y2K will likely top the $1 trillion mark, remind us that the effects of Y2K could be with us long after January 1st. When we return, we'll visit your local fire department, your PG&E power station, and your 911 dispatch center. 3 key players determined to meet the Y2K challenge.
Wherever you go, you see the signs. A new century is coming, and with it, 1,000 questions. Will there be peace? Will your family ever be in harm's way? Will a small town in Texas be hit with a hurricane? Will your daughter ever need a new kind of blood treatment? Will that nice man who hands you the paper ever need a hand to hold in a time of need? We have no crystal ball for the world that awaits. Just one promise. We'll be there, whether it's in the eye of the storm, in your darkest hour, in your time of need, or in the light of day. We'll be there.
Every 8 seconds, somewhere in the world, a child dies of starvation. That's why at the World Food Program, we can't waste a second getting food to people who really need it. The World Food Program, feeding the world's hungry, fast.
This is your butt. There are many things you can do with your butt. Your butt can make you a winner. You can use your butt to celebrate. If you insist on sitting, at least take your butt around the block. At night, your butt can get you noticed.
Nice butt.
Whatever you do with your butt, get off it.
This is County Communications, the nerve center of the county's 911 network and the place your call is routed in the event of an emergency. It is also the central dispatch center for the county's sheriff department, the fire department, and paramedic services. If there's a Y2K breakdown here, the effects could be disastrous.
What's the problem?
911 centers like these, known as Public Safety Answering Points, or PSAPs, are highly automated and are at the top of the list of many Y2K remediation efforts. One official report recently identified more than 50 components within PSAPs that are Y2K vulnerable. With so many components in the communication stream, are local officials confident that the system will work come January 1st?
County Communications has done extensive testing. Obviously, where the 911 center, we don't want to go down. We can't afford to be inoperable even for a minute. So we have a computer system that dispatches all of our equipment for the county sheriff, the county fire department, and the county paramedic dispatch. There is also a mirroring computer system that has been running in the year 2000 for several months now without any problems. We took the actual online system and tested it just a few days ago, and it worked fine.
Even if the technology operates as expected, centers like these could be stretched to the limit in the event of a major Y2K crisis. That's why the county is taking steps to be fully prepared as long as necessary.
If something occurs in Santa Clara County, it may also affect the neighboring counties, so we've had to plan to be self-sufficient. We may not be able to get assistance from neighboring counties. They may not have anyone to send us for help or to get food or fuel. So it's caused us to plan a little bit more extensively, to plan for a longer period of time to be self-sufficient and to have backups to our backup plans.
One of the primary agencies serviced by County Communications is the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. Here at Cupertino City Hall, deputies are on call around the clock responding to local incidents within the Cupertino community. If there's a Y2K problem anywhere within the city limits, the Sheriff's Department will likely be among the first agencies on the scene.
The Sheriff's Office is approaching the Y2K problem from a worst-case scenario. So we will be gearing up our Emergency Operations Center at our headquarters building. We will also be fully staffing the streets and the city. The Sheriff's Office has a standing order with the city, especially being a contract city, that we have certain priorities that we will undertake in a disaster-type situation. And those would be things such as, first and foremost, protecting lives and property.
And while the Sheriff's Department will have extra staff on hand the evening of December 31st, so will the Santa Clara County Fire Department. For years, the fire department has been active in all kinds of disaster planning, ranging from earthquakes to chemical spills to grassland fires. According to Chief Hal Rooney, Y2K is different from other potential emergency situations, if only by the fact that we know the date and time it's coming.
We're looking to curtail any vacations during that period of time, and we'll be staffing back units to be able to meet a potential increased workload. We're looking at staffing emergency operations centers for the various cities that we'll be serving. All that is part of the incident action plan for this agency to meet the needs of the community.
One of the needs of the community is emergency medical response. Because the effects of Y2K on the healthcare industry are uncertain, the fire department will provide paramedic services if for some reason hospitals and physicians are unable to meet patient demand.
In a disaster such as Y2K, or the potential, part of the staffing back is to have people there to at least greet people and administer, the minor type of medical services that we could provide. Obviously, we couldn't do things that, an emergency ward at a hospital could do, but it is a service that we work with and deal with on a day-to-day basis, and that wouldn't change.
Rooney is confident that department response to fires and potential chemical accidents won't change either. Every fire station has a backup generator, fuel reserves, and water pumping equipment that can be used in the event of an electrical failure. The district's hazmat vehicle is also designed for self-sufficiency. But while the fire department can operate almost indefinitely as a self-reliant system, other services in the community obviously cannot. And this is where Y2K presents perhaps its greatest challenge. The more we begin to understand Y2K, the more we realize that electrical power is the key to almost every other level of the problem. The power must stay on if essential services can continue to operate. Yet even a power failure of moderate duration could significantly threaten public welfare. While most agencies, including the city of Cupertino, can operate for extended periods of time without power from the grid, many other services, food providers, gas stations, and some healthcare providers would be compromised almost immediately. Without power, Y2K would soon escalate from a minor inconvenience to a major disaster.
We actually began our program in 1996 and fully committed to that remediation effort. In fact, all remediation has been completed, and right now we are in the final testing stages, and about 99% of the testing is complete of various functions. We anticipated as a corporation that the Y2K remediation effort would run about $260 million. When we started to really look at the embedded chip system, and we had 300,000 embedded chip systems, we found out we didn't have the problem that was initially anticipated. It was good news for everybody.
But it hasn't always been good news for PG&E. On August 10, 1996, more than 4 million people across 15 western states experienced power interruptions due to a combination of damaged transmission lines, low power generation, and the peak summer demand. The interconnectivity of the western power grid generally protects against such system-wide failure. Electricity can be routed around troubled spots in the event of an isolated outage. Although no one really knows exactly how many regional failures it would take to put the entire grid at risk, PG&E has taken contingency steps to assure this won't happen with Y2K.
I think what we see with the event that happened in August of '96 is during that time it was a heat spell in the state of California. We were at absolute top peak demand, and so we were importing a lot of power into the state of California. There was a lot of power being sent through those interties. During the rollover, that won't be happening. Is the Western Systems Coordinating Council won't have a lot of transfer of power on the grid from one area to another, but it can maintain that flexibility if need be, if there's a problem in one area.
PG&E has also taken steps to assure that proper monitoring and communications links are maintained throughout the grid. Its supervisory control and data acquisition system will be on heightened alert New Year's Eve with extra staff manning its centers.
I'm not sure if the customers realize that we have what we call distribution emergency centers, and we have 20 of them in our system. They are in operation when we have an earthquake or a large storm. We are going to have all those centers open on that New Year's Eve. So all those centers, in fact, will be staffed. We'll have 700 maintenance and operations staff on call and on duty that night also.
Particularly dependent on the power companies are the water providers. Water distribution and wastewater treatment are essential services for any community. The chances of a major Y2K failure here are also unlikely. Any significant disruption in electrical power, however, could reduce the volume of water a given system can provide for its citizens. That's why the Santa Clara Valley Water District is taking steps now to plan for possible year-end problems.
We have our own system in place that we feel is ready. If it fails, all the valves will fail as is, and we have time to send somebody out there and manually control them on our distribution systems. And then we need fuel to keep those generators running, and we need chemicals to maintain our process treatment plant. So we have to make sure we have an on-site storage of those fuel and chemicals for at least 2 weeks. And that makes us independent, really. No matter what happens outside our system, we can still continue to deliver water to the citizens of Santa Clara County.
And while Y2K contingency planners focus on basic services like water, gas, and electricity, what about the high-tech gadgets of the information age? Our telephones, home computers, our internet providers, ATM machines, radios, and televisions. For many, these are more than just conveniences. When the Galaxy 4 satellite failed in the spring of '98, 90% of the pagers went down throughout the country. Electronic transfers of all sorts, credit card transactions, ATM withdrawals, PayPoint services came to a standstill. Even some 911 services were affected for a short time. Was the Galaxy 4 incident a preview of what we can expect from Y2K?
Pacificals are very confident that we've left no stone unturned. After all, we started back in 1996. We're confident in the sense that we've identified the problem areas. In fact, some of our groups took over a year just to compile an inventory of the equipment and the potential Y2K problems. So we're fairly confident that come January 1, year 2000, when any one individual picks up the phone will work.
And what about our internet connections and our cellular phones?
Pacific Bell will guarantee that if you try to connect over the public network, it will work. As far as content or websites, that's really left up to the individuals that own and operate those websites. And also, we would strongly encourage that the folks in Cupertino make sure that their PCs are Y2K ready as well. The wireless industry is moving forward, and they're on track as well. I would encourage that the Cupertino citizens that have cell phones or PCS phones, or what they're calling the handsets now for the wireless folks, to go ahead and contact their phone vendors to make sure that equipment will be ready as well.
When we return, we'll take a look at what you and your family can do to prepare for the Y2K problem and visit with some Cupertino residents who have gone a step further and developed their own neighborhood preparedness plan.
Well, this has been... It's not a national emergency, it's a neighborhood fire. Yet for the families who lost their homes, it's a major disaster. What does the Red Cross do in a situation like this?
We're here to help the families. We give them food and blankets, and we provide shelter.
I was with the families last night, and thank goodness they didn't lose their lives. But in so many ways, they did. When people think of the Red Cross, they think of hurricanes and blood drives, but there's so much more.
The Red Cross is always involved in the community. It's neighbor helping neighbor.
Who pays for all of this to happen?
We help people, people help us.
First to respond with care and relief. Count on the Red Cross to be there for your family. But we're not a government agency. We rely on you. Call the Red Cross, because your help can't wait.
When you buy disposable and overpackaged products for your home, you're really saying, I'm fine with depleting natural resources. Pollute our air and water. Energy? Wasted. People tell you, hey, go for less packaging. Check out reusables. Buy stuff in bulk. Well, you tell them, no thanks. I'd rather throw it all away. Buy smart. Waste less. Save more.
For 50 years, UNICEF has worked to save and protect children's lives in times of crisis, providing essential medicines, safe water, nutrition, trauma counseling, family tracing. Help us help the children of Kosovo. UNICEF, saving children's lives, building children's futures.
Eve Castles and her Oakdale Ranch neighbors have been conducting emergency preparedness drills like this one for some years now. After all, living in earthquake country just a few miles from the San Andreas Fault, it just makes sense for residents to have emergency supplies just in case they're needed.
Well, it is a wonderful sense of security and of peace of mind. And I think, as we've talked about, that the important thing is to have your own supplies and your own sense of preparedness, and with that comes a sense of security.
But Castles and her neighbors went a step further than simple personal preparedness. Their neighborhood is set up as a small, self-sufficient community with more than 60 participating families among a total of 130 homes. When Y2K came to public attention, the Oakdale Ranch neighbors viewed it as an opportunity to take another look at their disaster plan.
Well, I think the Y2K situation provides a good opportunity for people to prepare in general. If by a remote chance there were to be problems, odds are they're not going to last for an extremely long time. So the same things you would do to prepare for an earthquake are likely to be of good use in the worst case scenario for Y2K. So in a sense, this is a good opportunity to prepare for problems in general.
Each family is in charge of taking care of their own needs first, so they make sure that everyone's okay in their own household, and then they would report to headquarters, which is located centrally in the neighborhood. We encourage everyone to participate however they can. We do, our emergency or our safety and OK signal is that we throw a white flag out in the front yard where it's easily visible, indicating that everything is okay.
Many of the Oakdale Ranch neighbors had previously enrolled in the City of Cupertino's CERT, or Community Emergency Response Training Program, under the instruction of Emergency Preparedness Coordinator Marie Moore. The CERT course includes search and rescue training, first aid, CPR, damage assessment, and communications. According to Moore, every Cupertino resident should include Y2K in their emergency preparedness planning.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency talks about an all-hazards approach to disaster. And if we're prepared for an earthquake, then we would be prepared for Y2K as well. But we do have the advantage of a window of opportunity in which to get prepared, and we know that the weather will probably be cold and possibly wet. So many of the preparations will be the same.
In many ways, getting ready for Y2K is like getting ready for an earthquake you know is coming. The rule of thumb is to have enough food, water, and essentials on hand to get you through the first 72 hours. After that, emergency relief crews should be on the scene, restoring most basic services. Organizations like the American Red Cross and the State of California Office of Emergency Services are encouraging individuals and families to adopt the 72-hour rule as part of their Y2K preparations. But Y2K may differ in some respects as well. Unlike an earthquake, which happens suddenly without warning, Y2K is fixed as a set day and time in people's minds. This presents a unique psychological aspect that is generally absent with most other kinds of emergency situations.
Well, the fact that we have some time to contemplate this is a two-edged sword. It gives people time to prepare, but it also gives time for a person's anxiety level to rise. It's important that people remain calm. We can't know just what the effects of Y2K will be at this point, but always the fear of the unknown is present, and because we don't know the magnitude of any disruption, people may tend to overreact.
Indeed, unjustified public panic could be worse than any technical glitches Y2K can dish out. In this sense, Y2K could be a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. As the year 2000 rollover nears, there is an increasing possibility of runs on banks, supermarkets, gas stations, and hardware stores, especially in late December when time is short. Grocery stores are especially vulnerable in that many provide what's known as just-in-time delivery and often have only a 2-day supply of food on the shelves. Check with your local grocer to see if they will be stocking extra supplies to meet the possible year-end demand. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve has printed an extra $200 billion of currency just in case it's needed, although the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, as of July 1st, claims 98% of its member banks had been given satisfactory ratings in their Y2K remediation. What do concern many mainstream planners are government assistance programs, programs for the needy and low income. People on government assistance are a small but significant part of our society, and they are likely to experience the potential effects of Y2K more acutely than others. Even a short interruption in services could make a big difference to someone who is living from paycheck to paycheck. Another major concern is the Y2K readiness of the healthcare industry. As many as 50% of hospitals are behind schedule in their remediation work. One mid-year report identified 14% of medical devices as non-compliant. Physicians' offices and skilled nursing facilities seem most at risk from Y2K problems. And while some pharmaceutical companies have assured the public that they will have a surplus of drugs on hand, Consumer Reports magazine is recommending individuals have a 30 to 60-day supply of essential medications just in case. If you are disabled or have special medical needs, it's a good idea to start planning now for possible year-end disruptions. A couple other items to consider. If you are planning a year-end flight, check with your local airline just to make sure that the friendly skies remain that way. The FAA doesn't expect any major domestic problems, but international travel could be somewhat of a risk. Also beware of scams. Many people have reported receiving telephone calls from scam artists using Y2K as a ruse to elicit information on credit cards and bank accounts. The Federal Trade Commission suggests consumers don't give out personal information over the phone or online, and to contact your bank immediately if there are unauthorized debits to any of your accounts. The City of Cupertino recommends you follow the emergency preparedness guidelines outlined by the American Red Cross. Remember to stock non-perishable foods, stored water, and an ample supply of prescription and non-prescription medications for all household members. Have extra cash or traveler's checks on hand in case electronic transactions cannot be processed. Also withdraw money from your bank in small amounts well before December 31st. Keep automobile gas tanks above half full. Use extra blankets and clothing to keep warm if power fails. It's also a good idea to keep your financial records in order, your bank statements, receipts, and invoices in case there are computer problems after January 1st. And most of all, stay informed. At the end of the show, we will have an extensive list of agencies, organizations, and websites you can contact to find out more information about the Y2K problem. And if you are interested in organizing your own emergency preparedness group here in Cupertino, you are invited to contact Marie Moore at 777-3335. Although potential Y2K problems will certainly not be limited to the morning of January 1st, 2000, Y2K is the first time in history we know well in advance the date and time of a potential disaster. The interdependent nature of today's technology makes the severity of possible disruptions difficult to determine. Yet most experts agree that the tremendous effort devoted to this problem over the last few years has significantly reduced the chances of a social meltdown. Still, we don't know. A recent survey conducted by the Washington 2000 Group, a group of leading technical, managerial, and legal experts devoted to the Y2K problem, is split. 45% believe Y2K will amount to a few minor inconveniences and nothing more. Another 45% believe Y2K will have a significant impact on American society, but that its effects will be transitory and thus manageable. The remaining 10% believe Y2K will produce severe, long-lasting effects that will threaten our very way of life. Whatever the case, an early warning system proposed by the federal government perhaps will be our first glimpse as the effects of Y2K sweep across the time zones the evening of December 31st. Whatever happens, it will certainly make for a memorable New Year's Eve. And whether it's the millennium bug, an earthquake, or any other emergency situation, as a Cupertino resident, it's prudent to be prepared. Stay informed, and most of all, don't panic. Remember, working together with your neighbors and your community is the best approach, the common sense approach to meeting the Y2K challenge. Videotape copies of this program are available for individuals and organizations. For more information, contact the City Channel at 408-777-3264 or email us at citychannel@cupertino.org.